November 26, 2025. Welcome back to the Global Defense War Monthly Panel. I am John Michael Chambers. We will cover from a military perspective just what is going on behind the scenes. I will set the stage for this panel before we begin with the following from Guardian Daniel R. The Great Unmasking. Elon Musk just ruined every operative's cover story. I told you 2025 was the year of exposure. I told you that massive reveals were coming before the year was over. I told you this had to happen before the major D-class, so patriots would finally see who is who and what is what in this information war. Well, it just happened. Elon just dropped the platform, shaking detonation on X with one update, the account created, location plus the new connected via section. He exposed every single operative, even the ones who hid their info, even the ones who shielded their metadata, even the ones who thought they were ghosts. They're all on the radar now, exposed in one click. And guess what? There is panic in the operative networks, absolute scrambling, VPN chaos, Photoshop sloppiness, narrative meltdowns, damage control everywhere. And it is glorious. The masks are almost gone. The shadows evaporated. The accounts pretending to be patriots, MAGA, veterans, truth tellers, digital soldiers, moms from Arkansas, or blue-collar Americans are suddenly showing foreign origins, intelligence-aligned data points, and connections that none of them wanted public. The veil is lifting. The network is shaking. The exposure is real, and it's still not over. More to come before the year's ends. So welcome to the final drill of 2025, the year the light hit everything. And this is just the beginning. Now, our esteemed panel today consists of 5 wartime correspondents: retired Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bosi, former Australian Army Special Forces; retired Colonel Delta Forces Chuck Sellers. We have some tech issues. He should be joining us. Michael Jaco, retired veteran Navy SEAL, dedicated a total of over 35 years serving the U.S. government in high-risk environments. Retired Army Derek Johnson, an expert, in my opinion, on tabulating and covering the Commander-in-Chief Donald J. Trump's laws, orders, and current events. Canadian military fighter Brad Wasney is on the panel today, and we're glad to have Brad back with us today. So let's bring the panel on. This is a panel of experts with military and intelligence careers, having served the U.S., Canada, and Australia with combat experience, as well to cut through the noise to help keep us informed through their analysis of what is going on in this war and where things are heading. So I want to thank you, gentlemen, for your service to your countries and continued service today and tomorrow as civilians. So we're going to begin this panel straight up with the first question that I'd like to take on. We can be kind of brief on this because there's a lot of stuff we're going to get into, a lot of momentum that's going to be built, but we got to get Marjorie Trader Brown out of the way. So let's keep this one brief. My question to the team, will start off with retired Lieutenant Colonel, my good friend, a warrior hero, going to make Australia great for once, Ricardo Bosi. Sir, the question to you and the panel is, Marjorie Taylor Greene, is what we're seeing on the surface really happening, or is this a full-blown PSYOP or elements of PSYOP?
Thanks. You're on the range.
We've got very, very intermittent Wi-Fi. I'm not quite sure what adjustments could be made, but I'll pipe down and we'll begin with Ricardo.
Okay, the only thing I can say very quickly is check fire. This is a stage of the operation where you've seen the Spider-Man meme where all the Spider-Mans are pointing guns at each other. They're all happening now. You don't know who's who in the zoo. So it's old advice, but it's sage advice. Just wait 72 hours and understand within wheels. And I'm not saying she's straight. I'm not saying she's bent. All I'm saying is just check fire and watch closely.
Solid analysis. Thank you, sir. Let's move on to Michael Jaco. Hi, Mike. Good to see you. What say you on Marjorie Taylor, Trader, Brown, Green, whatever you'd like to call Marjorie these days?
Well, Trump really goes after him when they get out of line, doesn't he? Called her traitor. So she is, I think so. She's going to leave Congress on the 5th of January next year. That's 2 days after she gets her lifetime retirement. She only has to be there 5 years. All of us, had to do at least 20. These Congress people, they do 5 years. At 62, they get retirement for the rest of their lives. So why not leave now? So that's suspect to me. Also, what's very suspect to me is she came in with $700,000 in earnings, and right now she's worth 25 to 27 million. All right, so there's obviously, like we've seen with a lot of these Congress people, some shady deals going on the backside. Insider trading, whatever it is. I think we're going to find out some very, very nasty things on her. So we'll find out.
Yep, great points to be raised, and that one issue, Mike, cannot be ignored. How does one go from 750 to 20-something million in a matter of a few short years? I'll sign up for that program, providing it's legitimate. Same question to the panel. We'll go over to Derek Johnson.
Well, it's what Republicans, conservatives got on board with President Trump when they started yelling, "Drain that swamp." 45-47 is an operation. So everything that happens in it is a part of that plan and that strategic plan and operation. So I try to tell people over and over, put brackets around that. It's not going to end after 47 as far as all our hoorays and all of our hoorahs, but you got to put brackets around it, everything there. And then like Jaco just said, she told on herself. So it's a classic. I know some people don't like game theory, but it had to be done this way. So they're telling on themselves without saying, this is what I did. She specifically said in her recent interview that she had someone making those trades for her. They were pretty doggone good, $3.2 million. It's pretty good person there. So it's all insider information. And that's the first thing President Trump went after. Was all the deep state, how they make their money, follow the money. Well, they followed it, and we found it, and now it's exposure time. And every one of us for the past 3.5 years on this panel, together and separately, have told everybody, don't be surprised. There's going to be a lot more people who look like you, talk like you, walk like you, act like you, that were not doing what they were supposed to be doing behind the scenes.
Yep, well said. It reminds me of Martha Stewart, when you invoke insider trading type stuff, and look what a difference a day makes, I guess, or position in or out of government. Brad, please take this on as well.
Yeah, honored to be here with all of you fine men. And Rick, we didn't get a chance to say hello when you came on before we started, so great to see you again, and hope all's well with the family. And one key point, I didn't do combat duty when I was a Canadian infantry soldier, but I will tell you, if I had the MTG plan, I might want to sign up to that. They didn't pay us for 10 months, but we still had to serve and call up and go out and march and do our field training exercise and do our deployments. But one thing people really might want to consider is Donnie Brasco. And that was a fantastic movie. And back in the day, played by Johnny Depp. I think he did a great role in that character. What if MTG is a Donnie Brasco, right? Which we just saw a week ago from today, that we had Elon sitting right beside President Trump. We've got that beautiful selfie with one of the most beautiful women on the planet, Melania, First Lady of the United States. And just a few short months ago, people are railing at Elon for leaving and calling Trump Queen Island. So it very well could be that it is a Donnie Brasco.
Yeah, well, big question mark and a lot of speculation, and we'll see how it plays out, like everything else. And to our audience and certainly our panel, pardon me, I've got congestion passing through my system, but the show goes on. I'll do the very best I can to control any disruptions. Let's take on another subject. Comey, Letitia, Epstein, Clintons, and now senators defying orders. Tina Peters' corrupt Colorado system. So there's some bullets. The common denominator that I see is the awareness is being raised as to the corruption in the civilian justice system, of course, individuals as well, and the acceptance, if not demand, for results, thus bringing all roads leading to Gitmo, all, it's the military, Nuremberg trials, so forth and so on. Hopefully you've understood this to the panel. What I'm saying is, with the issues I've just raised, we've got Comey and Letitia, kind of in limbo at the moment. We've got senators and others defying orders, sedition. We've got Tina Peters, off the charts corruption in Colorado, and a lot of dialogue taking place. We're going to jump a little further into that later. When you look at these issues and things of that nature that are unfolding right now as we speak, that aren't tasting good in the Patriots' mouth, if you will, is this part of the plan to some extent to raise the awareness that the civilian system of justice is beyond repair and that all roads will lead to Gitmo, and raising the comfort level and acceptance from, as what Derek has branded, and it's all over the place, and we put it out mainly on this panel, the target audience. Ricardo Bossi, sir, please weigh in on this question.
Yeah, you framed it well, John. Just remember what the strategic end state of this particular phase is. They need the people baying for blood. They need the people so profoundly beyond disappointment, just absolutely despairing for something useful to happen. And that's why you've got this constant a series of distractions. So people are looking left and right and left and right. And eventually they get tired of the distractions. Like most of us around the table, we watch it with sort of detached amusement. But eventually we say, come on, when is it going to happen? And so they're constantly holding something up and then dropping it, raising something else and dropping it. It's just the art of war, not necessarily Sun Tzu. A corporal or sergeant will do this out scrub. He'll throw a rock one way to get the bad guys looking one and then bolt. But there are so many levels to it. So it's got to be the polity, the judiciary, the bureaucracy, the constabulary, the military, the intelligence agencies, the media, academia, big business, big unions. You're going to keep seeing all of these frustrations, and people are saying, when? To be demanding action. And it's been necessarily slow. As we said before, the network is so deep and complex.
We've got Wi-Fi connectivity issues. You spoke about a network, was the kind of the last word we heard. If you can take a pause and pick up from there, sir.
Yeah, that network is so deep and profound. It's taken a long time to get there. That's why this has been so slow. But we are now there. You can tell we're getting very close, and we'll be mentioning other actions that Donald Trump is taking internationally as a comm. That things are now in place. Understand, as Derek has brilliantly pointed out and patiently pointed out many, many, many times, continuity of government, under control. So whatever you're seeing is the show, whether it's Marjorie Taylor Greene, whether it's Comey and the rest of them. The point that all of this is coming to is the people must demand satisfaction. They've got to get their gauntlet and slap somebody across the face. They're going to demand satisfaction. Now, my guess, they're going to get it. They're going to get a happy Christmas if they're like us or like me. I want to see arrests. I want to see people go down. It'll be painful. The reveal will be painful, but that's my view. It's all going to come down, and that's what we're seeing. So different areas, civilian justice, military justice, you framed it well. Civilian justice has failed. Let's do something else. But that's in the context of everything. I'll say it one more time. It all has to be dismantled. And I'll leave you with the last question. In terms of when you're seeing operations, clandestine mainly, would you risk your reputation to win the war. So the boss calls you in and says, mate, we got a problem. You've got to go in, and you will possibly be remembered for the rest of time as the greatest Judas ever. But you'll be working for the good guys, and you're going to save billions of lives. Would you do it? Would you risk your reputation and go down a rat? Now, that's a tough one. It really is. But bear that in mind when you're watching people be revealed. Now, most of them are going to be crooks. We know that.
I think so.
But bear in mind, it's a very subtle game being played, and the cost is high.
Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you. We've got Colonel Chuck Sellers here. Thanks for joining us. Can you say hello? I want to make sure your audio is good, and I'm going to bring you into the fold.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Apologies. Yeah, I apologize.
Perfect. No problem. Thanks for. Hey, you guys are military. You make everything work in the end. So thanks for being here. The question that I'm going to repeat it because you just joined us, and we'll go to you, Chuck. I'm speaking in bullet points for the moment. Comey and Letitia, that debacle temporarily. Epstein, Clinton's testifying or whatever the case is. Now the Senate is defying orders. You've got Tina Peters in an unjust and corrupt Colorado system. I see a common denominator here as perhaps the collective of this, a common denominator is awareness may be being raised for the target audience, if you will, to start to realize that we can't get justice in the civilian system. Look at all the problems we're having with these individuals and the system, and to prepare us, because we're getting very close to moving a lot of this stuff into tribunals and a Nuremberg 2.0 with Fauci in the head seat, I might add. How would you weigh in on that notion?
I agree with all of it. The research I was doing today in preparing for this, I mean, this was a new one on me. I had heard that this is right along the lines of what you're saying about the tribunals, right? And then I want to make another comment about these 6 idiots in Congress and the Senate that tried to pull that stuff. The thing that I heard today was that the Admiral Alvin Halsey, I had heard that he stepped down from the Southcom Command, in October sometime. I can't remember the exact date, but that came through other channels. I mean, I heard it from somewhere else, and I'm going, well, if he resigned, there's a reason he resigned. I'm sure it's going to come up as unsuitable or incompatible with leadership, and that's pretty much what I got as I was reading this stuff. Apparently, this guy got court-martialed and convicted last Thursday of his court-martial, convicted of treason. And it was an interesting case as I was reading it because he was ordered by Pete Hegseth is the way I read the laydown of the story. He was ordered by Pete Hegseth, SecWar, to attack and sink a drug boat that they had identified that on ground assets visually identified it and physically identified that drugs were being loaded onto this boat by armed individuals. The way the narrative goes on this thing is that Halsey refused the order from Hegseth to destroy the boat because he was not going to attack a target that had women and children on the boat for a pleasure cruise, as he called it. Well, as the thing unfolded in court in the tribunal, it was a tribunal at Gitmo. Admiral, I'm trying to remember, Jonathan. It's in there somewhere. Anyway, the tribunal commander was an admiral, and they brought in his command sergeant major. Remember, this guy was the man in Southcom, and his NCO, I see his senior enlisted guy. They brought him in to testify against him. Did you see that that the admiral had seen the video evidence of what was going on to that boat, that target. He goes, yes, sir, I saw that evidence. He goes, did you ask the admiral? Are you going to do the order that the Sec War just gave you? And he goes, I'm not going to, because there's women and children. Sir, you just saw that. You saw the video, and they're armed men loading drugs onto a boat. Cocaine. I'm not going to do it. So he elected to not do it, and they arrested him. First he stepped down, which is okay, fine, and then they arrested him a few days later. So, but the question is, it brings into the whole question, because a lot of people have been bitching and moaning about what the Navy's doing out there in the Caribbean, sinking those boats and those submarines. This is not a new story. I was in Colombia. Mike you probably were in Colombia too. I was back in Colombia in '93, and they were using those submarines and the cigarette boats to run drugs along the Colombian coast. This is not a new story, peeps. It is not new. This is old tactics for them, and it's common knowledge. And so there's that line. You're going to interpret the order, and this is what I'm talking about, the Southcom commander. He's going to interpret that order. Is he going to actually look at the physical evidence of the intel that's telling him that he's okay, that he's within lawful orders to go ahead and hit that target? Or is he going to make a decision somehow or other that, no, I'm not going to risk I'm not going to risk it, because that could be an unlawful order. So now you get to really explore the fine lines that these guys are walking. And honestly, if they have the video, and again, this is all about evidence. Do you have the true intel, real intel that's real and can be verified, and act on it? And in this case, it looks like there was that evidence, and his command sergeant major verified it, and they took the correct action, I believe. Luckily for him, he didn't get the death penalty. So translate that into the actions of these 6 bozo, 2 senators and 4 representatives that decide to make that film. They're walking that fine line also. Now, the words that they used, they actually kind of said it. You don't have to follow, all you troops out there, you don't have to follow an illegal order. That is true as the ace of spades. We've known that ever since we were commissioned. Guys, every unit in the military gets trained on this stuff. They get trained on lawful orders, unlawful orders. It was in our minds the entire time, from the first time that you get commissioned, and you take your first salute. So there's nothing new about this. I think, especially I'm talking about these six politicians, and I mean that, politicians, all Democrat. They said correct words, I believe, in what they put out, but the intent is clear. And their intent was to obstruct, delay. Oh, but wait, isn't that the Democratic playbook? That is the resistance playbook against Trump. Delay, resist, obfuscate, all the way down the lines. They might have covered themselves on some of the wording of what they said, but their intent is clear, and they should all definitely be taken out of their positions.
Thank you, sir. Wow. What comes to mind is, you've got the commander-in-chief, Donald Trump. You've got Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. As I've learned from observing the world go round, and from this panel, particularly Derek Johnson, that this is laws and orders. This is everything the president and therefore orders given by him down to Hegseth are lawful, are constitutional. End of conversation.
That's true. And John,
Sorry.
can I interject one
Yeah.
one thing? And if you think
Mhm.
you're correct, you're absolutely correct. The orders that Trump has given are lawful orders. There's no doubt. And let me tell you, those orders are not given without thorough review by the military judicial system. There is a lawyer standing over every one of us as commander, and that goes all the way to the very top. And so you're getting legal advice on all of this as it all unfolds. And that was true of me when I was a captain, when I was a colonel. Exactly true. My JAG was right there, just
Yeah.
the little angel on your shoulder saying, hey, you might be treading in some rough ground right here or not. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The system is
You've raised some
well
great.
established to handle these things.
Yes. But you raised some great points. We're going to continue on. The frame of the question again was some of the individuals that I mentioned raising the awareness to get us out of a corrupt civil system into preparing us for the acceptance and demand, if you will, in certain areas for Gitmo to be fully activated for the target audience. Mike Jaco, sorry, I was so engaged in everything Chuck Sellers was sharing with us, I got thrown off my point. Great stuff you've raised there, and so damn important. Mike, you want to weigh in on this, please?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very passionate, like Colonel Sellers as well. So if we go all the way back to the Revolutionary War,
muted,
we
brother.
had.
What was that?
Am I muted?
I think Mike was
No.
muted. I can see him talking.
The audience hears Mike, so perhaps Jessica figure something out for Chuck so he can hear the dialogue. But go ahead. Thank you, Chuck, and go ahead, Mike.
So going all the way back to the Revolutionary War, you had loyalists that fought with the British side, and then you had the terrorists, which what we would call today the patriots. So if you look at the current situation, we have loyalists to the deep state, which would be the six demon rats, right, that basically tried to create sedition and maybe unfortunately, have created a little bit of sedition. I think every command at this point should be counseling and having discussions. I had that in my shows, discussions about this. This is, lawful orders. When they come down, if you can discuss them, but normally when it's time to go, you don't question, you go. And that's the way the military is. And a lot of people that are probably going to listen to this aren't familiar with the way the military works, but we have to work together very quickly sometimes, split second sometimes. So we're in that same situation. So we're getting very close, I believe, to hammering Venezuela and probably some other countries down there and replacing some of their leadership. So it's going to be Insurrection Act, because we have a lot of people, like we just saw, those six, seditious people that need to be removed from power immediately, I believe. But I think maybe the holdback is because they're waiting for go time, which I think is coming very soon. Maybe this coming weekend would be my best guess. They're supposed to have a really nice weather pattern that comes down. So a lot of people that might riot or protest, there's going to be a lot of cold weather, snow happening. So who knows? Maybe that's calculated into it. Maybe it doesn't happen, but I think we're right on the cusp of, kicking off a little war against these cartels, and we can go deeper into that. But these cartels stretch all the way into America. So it's going to be a very dicey little act when it goes down, and I think it's been planned out very well. So it's a coordination thing, and Chuck Sellers and I and some of these other gentlemen have been involved in, some very coordinated activities, and it's going to be very, very interesting when it comes up. I am looking forward to it.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, we're going to get to Venezuela and Mexico and insurrection just in a few moments. Same question to Derek Johnson.
Well, good. You just shorten up my segment on this. We'll talk about Venezuela in a minute. Good deal. So,
Okay.
so I think the first thing people need to remember too during this situation, a military occupation, and Lieutenant Colonel Bosey was talking about the continuity of government earlier. So many people are not seeing that detail. And when the law outlines that we're in a military occupation and a continuity government, then that's what the law says. And because of that, that brings in your irregular warfare and your unconventional warfare. And in your unconventional warfare, that's where you'll have the SERUM pyramid. It's the resistance pyramid. And some of these things that people are seeing, riots, some of them are planned. All right, not all, but some are. And it's like getting the people involved, like you were saying a while ago. It's like, so if people will divorce their feelings, divorce their emotions, and sit back and watch, you could have been watching it the whole time, but what happens? President Trump gets them stirred up. It's called setting the bait, right? And we're talking about average Americans. We're talking about people who are on their cell phones 8 hours a day. X especially, X is ate up with liberals, so they bait them, and they do have some of those blue checks that are baiting them. And it may look like, oh, they're liberal as all get out, but they're actually paid opposition, and some of them are actually on the good side and may look bad. So they bait them. They get everybody stirred up, and then something like Comey and Letitia James. Oh yeah, we told you they weren't going to get. President Trump just posted literally 2 days ago a photo, and it says specifically when the judicial system fails, how do you go around that? And it says military tribunals. All right, so all this is setting up perfect because you don't want to put these people in a federal court, because when we have that, you'll have a O.J. Simpson, where you'll have still 50% of the people who think he's innocent and 50% who think he's guilty, and that still ends up this right here, and we never, ever get out of these trenches. President Trump is specifically designed, he was asked to do this, to be the face of this operation, specifically because he wasn't a politician and he wasn't in the military. All of us that's been military, we're okay with that. We're okay with whatever that was because he's a neutral person and he was willing to put his face on this. To me, he gets full credit, period, because he was willing to be the face of this whole world operation. So there's that. So you bait them, you get them to bite it, and then you flip it on them. And everybody's seen this along the way. Elon is a perfect one. They made them all think that President Trump and Elon had a divorce, like that. And then all of a sudden, Elon's in his black tie affair, sitting there laughing and giggling at Mar-a-Lago. And then it's like, gotcha, right? So it's all the people down here. All the rest is taken care of. And that'll come with time. The justice is coming. But the judicial system. And then like Mark Kelly, all these dudes, the biggest thing of that is what we're teaching people with those is, even though that's pre-planned, and these would have been people who were already caught back here, and now's their time for exposure. 2 or 3 of them are military. And that shows you, what did you serve for? What were your motives? What were your intent when you went into service? Was it to get the title, to go into politics, and then use that all the time to go, oh, I'm a ranger and I did this and I did 35 combat missions and da-da-da? I mean, or is it like some of these guys here? They don't walk around saying what they did. Someone else says it for them, right? And then they walk on the stage. All right. So there's a time and a place for everything. And so it's teaching people that as well, that a lot of these people in politics, they did a lot of this for the wrong intent and the motives. And then look at the Clintons. There's a prime example. The last 5 years, the Clintons, the Obamas, the Bushes have been relatively quiet, right, as far as social media. All right, especially Bill and Hillary, though, they've been retired a long time, theoretically. I mean, if you want to go back to what do you consider retirement? Well, she hasn't done anything since the run of 2016. So why is it that they can't appear with a subpoena when they were supposed to appear back in, I think it was September, October? Like, what's keeping them, right? That is all strategy. This is all part of the plan. And, the plan is outlined, but it's like we were talking in the pre-show. We can't make people read. We can't make you study, and we can't make you comprehend. But it is a blueprint. There's a formula to it. And everything's leading down to the tribunals, and I think it's perfect. When I heard the news that was dropped, I'm like, okay. What I told my people, I hate to say my people because a lot of our people are the same people. But what I told my base, I said, if you think this is coincidence that President Trump just posted when the judicial system fails that you go to tribunals, and then the very next day, Comey and Letitia James' case was quote unquote dropped. If you think that's a coincidence, then I have a polar bear in Jamaica to sell you.
Yeah, great stuff, Derek. Vision comes to my mind is a football field filled with those big kettle drums and kettle drummers. And what I hear is a thundering, right? That's what's happening with regards to President Trump's strategy that you just so well laid out. Brad, you want to take this on, please?
Correct. Sure. I'll be in. Is that okay?
Yeah.
We got you.
Good. Thank you. Yeah, just very brief. Major General Valley, to give him a nod, he turns 86 on the 29th, National Treasure, right? He has said publicly, I gave 2 plans to Trump and his administration with Operation Sinaloa, a defensive plan and an offensive. Started with the defensive plan almost immediately when 47 was inaugurated. And now you're seeing the offensive plan. And so these things are being worked out. And you look at the build of any storyline in great movies or books that you might read, like Rick or his friend might have written, Dr. Reb, or any television show, you've got the build-up, the presupposition, you kind of lay out the characters. Some of those characters move around. Is that an antagonist or a protagonist? Mentor, but the mentor maybe is born or a miserable and he's actually the bad guy, but then he turns out to be the good guy at the end. They're doing this once again on purpose to wake up the world. So I would encourage everybody to just hang in there and enjoy what is going on, because at the highest levels, while you might see some problems going on, which is still happening in every one of our cities and municipalities, and Tina in Colorado, I mentioned earlier, John, which, by the way, from being a guy who lived there as a legal resident in America myself, in Edwards Valley in Boulder, Colorado, that was back in the time you could go to the restaurant like the Gas House in Edwards in Beaver Creek, and they still had hitching posts in 2005 and 6 where you could be a cowboy and go up there. So where are the cowboys going in to get Tina Peters? I mean, it's real unfortunate to see what's happened there. So put a lot of prayer around that woman, everybody. But at the highest levels, this has already been worked out, and they're seeing where you exert pressure one area, a couple places down the system in the pipeline, you might see, oh my gosh, we got to plug that leak over there. And that might be through land warfare very soon, because President Trump has already announced that he has green-lighted special operations to happen in Venezuela. And we know for a fact, some people here that have already gotten the intel that it is happening, which is wonderful to hear.
Mm-hmm. Yep, great analysis. Thank you. You mentioned Tina Peters, perfect dovetail. We'll go to Ricardo. Tina Peters. Okay, I'm going to be very careful with my wording here. I don't want to be out of context or misunderstood. Tina Peters, she's in the hole, she's out of the hole. She's in the hole, she's out of the hole. President Trump, to my recollection, 4 public statements, demands and threats concerning freeing Tina Peters. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm well aware of the real plight and injustice that's been done to Tina. But am I crazy? Again, we're going to Ricardo now. Am I crazy in thinking that there is some aspect of a psyop taking place involving the Tina Peters situation?
At the risk of repeating myself, a show we did just recently, I say it again. Is this real or is it not? Let's assume for the purposes of this discussion, the Tina Peters is actually undergoing this injustice. If that is the case, should she be rescued? Maybe. Should she be left in place? Maybe. It depends if there's a strategic advantage, being a significant strategic advantage to her enduring what she has to endure. And if that's the case, then so be it, because this is another way of tracking down the network and finding out whose phones are ringing, who's giving instructions to whom in relation to this. So when DJT makes let her go, let her go, let her go, that's going to cause some concern amongst the people involved. Phone calls are made, emails are sent, people are tracked. Is that a cold way of using a 72-year-old lady who's been unjustly treated? Maybe. It's war. Maybe it's real, maybe it's not, but it's war. On the other hand, as I said the other day, if the lads go in, the question was, should the lads go in? And it'd be a tremendous morale boost. Something's happened. Somebody's finally done something. And it's not unlike the Doolittle raid on Japan after Pearl Harbor was hit. And they stripped the B-25 missile bombers down to basically nothing. They carried bombs and little else. They flew off the carriers and they hit Japan in short order, very shortly after Hawaii was hit. Now, was that a sound tactical plan? Absolutely not. The planes and the crews were sacrificed. They tried, those that got through to China, and they were told to land there and make their way home. And, a little bit of escape and evasion is good for the soul, apparently. So tactically, it wasn't what you call a sound plan. Strategically, it was brilliant because American people got that shot in the arm and they doubled their efforts to defeat the click-running Japan. So I don't mean to be sitting on a fence. I'm not. I'm just trying to give a couple of perspectives here. Is it real? Great. If it's not, then fine, PSYOP. Can they still work the PSYOP to get some advantage? And again, ladies and gentlemen, the wheels within the wheels are just so extraordinary. Man, it's a tough gig, but there you go. That's the best I can give you.
Thank you for taking on a sensitive and very difficult question. And I'll share this with everyone. I'm looking at my cell phone here. About a week ago, I asked Juan a question regarding freeing Tina. I've certainly learned a lot from this Global Defense War panel this year about the continuity of government and where we're actually at in a wartime command structure. And so it was common sense to me to ask this question. And basically I asked Juan, couldn't the commander-in-chief just send the boys in there and take care of business and get Tina out if, in fact, this is occurring? And Juan's answer was 2 words. Actually, yes. And that was an encouraging answer. But same question to the rest of the panel. Colonel Chuck Sellers, please.
Well, I mean, I think there's so many levels. So I agree with what Ricardo was saying. It could be either way because it's all part of the grand strategy. It got to be part of the grand strategy, and we're not going to see all the little pieces in there that are running. So I don't know. It could be either.
Yes, understood. I go with what Brad said. Regardless of what the circumstance is, there certainly is a circumstance. Prayers absolutely in order for Tina Peters, and each of the colonel's points are very well taken. And that brings us to Mike Jaco.
Yeah, I've talked about how Tina Peters needs to have like a Delta mission, like we did in Panama. Colonel Sellers and I were there, and so was Juan O'Sullivan. Actually, we talked about it, but I think there's a timing issue that's going on right now, like I talked about. There's a coming conflict. They don't want to compromise that. That's my thoughts on that. Maybe that conflict was going to happen a little bit sooner, and they could have rolled up and with a bunch of Marines and said, "Give her up. We're going to take charge of her, and you guys are done." Because when I look at Colorado now, I've been to Colorado. I love Colorado, but Colorado is a captured operation right now. And there's a lot of states that are captured operations, and they're going to have to be taken back. So I think that's what's going to happen once this kicks off. And maybe they'll let her go earlier. Juan has said that they're right on the cusp of letting her go. So maybe there's something happening in the background that will let her go. So none of us here have that insight. All we can do is speculate. But I think we're close. Very close to her being free.
Good news. Thank you, Michael. I just want to say this real quick. I moved to Colorado in late 90s, spent 10 years there, so some of the best years of my life, beautiful state. But, and I was focusing on, besides my financial services business at the time, focusing on songwriting at the time. And I'd written a series of songs called Songs from the Light, sort of spiritual freedom type music. And let me just summarize it. You're right about Colorado being a captured operation. As far back as 1999, when I was there, I bumped up against some powerful people whose names are widely known the world over, that didn't like my presence there. And they had a lot of power. And they didn't like my presence just because of the CD I was circulating of the truth. And so I think you're right. I think the captured operation of Colorado, it's just one man's simple opinion, began a long time ago and is fully manifested now, become a place that is not what it once was. And hopefully, we will eventually get that straightened out. Same question on this subject of Tina Peters to Derek Johnson.
Well, I'm not very versed on her whole situation, but I do know enough about it to say this. One, do you believe President Trump is Commander in Chief? Yes. All right, that should be your answer. All right. And then two, if you believe that, then you got to believe 45-47. He put that on his ball cap April the 2nd, 2023, which was a year and 7 months before he became 47. You see the 1-7 there? How many times is it mathematically impossible? I mean, we're at so many now that no one can recollect the number 17. Then also the judicial system. I have a timeline, which is a whole other setting and a whole other podcast, but I have plenty of those on my Rumble, etc., where I show this timeline of the 2017 to 2021, 21 to 25, and then right now 25 to present day. So January the 20th, 2025. The first term was your resetting of your legislative branch. The second, what people thought was quote unquote Joe, was actually a reconstitution of the executive branch. This is all in laws. It's all outlined. There are publications to show the blueprint. So that was a puppet government, which is your heavy unconventional warfare, and then your government in exile. And right now you're going through the judicial resetting. So the first one was a resetting of the legislative branch. The second is the resetting of the executive branch. And right now, it's what's judge this, judge that, judge this, judge that, court this, court, judge. It's all you hear. And it's a resetting of it. So I'm with Lieutenant Colonel with the double, and then also with Jaco on the other portion of that. Look, a military occupation means that there's a shield. It's like a golden dome. It's like a dome that the military is watching every aspect of it, but especially something that President Trump is commenting on. When he is engaged on it, that means he is well intact on what's going on. And like Jaco said, if they wanted them out, they could send. I'm not going to pick on branches here. We can't be doing that, but they could send what we would consider our lowest branch in there to get them out if we wanted to. But especially if the Marine Corps came up there or Delta Force, it'd be game over really, really quick. You probably will only need one of them. You send Jaco in there and look at him, and with his language and with him fully geared up, they would be on their knees. They would have dirty, wet, stinky socks in their mouth, and they wouldn't say a word, and then she'd be walked out there with dignity. But it's like I told people with J6. J6, you couldn't compromise the mission. It was already a pre-planned operation. So a lot of innocent people walked into a pre-planned situation. So therefore you couldn't give up your operation. You had to put them through the judicial system just like that. So it's like a Yellowstone quote. A lot of people love the show Yellowstone. And there was a protester in there. She loved what she did. She protested all the time. Then she got arrested, and then she got put behind bars. And then Kevin Costner, who was playing John Dutton, he said, well, isn't this what you wanted? Right? So you kind of have to own it in another sense. So if I was Tina, I would own it. I'd be like, like my, whatever you want to call it, pin myself. So you got to think of it that way too. It's like when you're a warrior, and as Lieutenant Colonel Bosey said, this is a war. It is a war, and we're seeing what kind of people are standing up in a protected shield. So they actually kind of want to see people do this in another manner. And I tell you what, for 72 years old, I think that's pretty badass, if I could say.
Oh, without question. Thanks, Derek. Brad, you want to tackle this one? Brad Wozniak, can you hear us, Brad?
I think I'm pretty good. Side of it, what we just yep, come through. You're loud and clear for me. All right. I think the through line, what we're all discussing here overall with Tina and the issues we've covered thus far, is that once again, once again, there are people that may not be exactly who they appear to be. And then there are others who are in these roles or actually in real life, going through these circumstances to see what other people react to, and patriots stand up and get them ready. And I'm going to use the phrase, wanting blood, because that is what is going to be the tipping point from a psychological aspect worldwide. When you're sitting here wanting blood, whether it's 400 ostriches with 1,000 bullets over the course of 9 hours being slaughtered or massacred in front of people who 2.5 years earlier, we just had horses trample, an indigenous clan mother and another man to death in Ottawa. We had 2 million people fried with LRADs, which Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bossi and his wife and chief of staff and 2 million Aussies, right? They've forgotten. And then we're still seeing all of this, 12,000 being arrested in the United Kingdom, most of them at jail, for some of them for memes they hadn't even sent on their phones yet, because the MI5 British security apparatus is reading everybody's mail also on their devices. So we need to have the world wanting blood, screaming blood for justice. That is what this is all about. 100% the good, bad, and the ugly. And when we're looking at Tina Peters, God rest her soul, she's still with us. But again, everybody, and for some reason, Goldberg lost her son, her husband. And either way that this goes, this should not have happened. It's still here. And so everybody has to stand up, speak out, and start chanting everywhere. Military tribunals, far beyond enough, because more innocent blood will be spilled, more lawfare will be brought against people. Pastor Artur Pawlowski today is facing another $165,000 fine for being a pastor speaking out of service. Like, what is enough for people to take, right? What is enough to get them chanting for freaking justice everywhere, not on one incident on stolen elections at a federal level, or maybe in a state here, or municipality, and child trafficking and CPS. It is a freaking collective across everything. So we need to chant, we want blood, we want justice. We have criminals who are still trying to vaccinate people. Even in Colorado just this weekend, they wanted to COVID-19 vaccinate a woman for her job, and she said no, and they said, you will not be paid this week or come to work because of it. So now we have to take it up to the DOJ and the president at the White House, because that stuff is still not happening. We want justice and we want blood. There are people who must be hung, shot through proper military tribunals with unequivocal evidence. And Elon even said it 48 hours ago on X. He said if there is unequivocal evidence of murders, they must be murdered, hung. They're killed, not murdered, right? Those murders. And then Valentina Gomez even backed it up and said, yeah, including rapists as well and drug traffickers. So the whole world needs to shout this on social media right now, out loud, and not until we see what I believe is over 100 million people willingly converted, which causes death immediately, whether it's fentanyl or whether it's pharmaceuticals coming from China. On top of that, stolen elections, sedition, and treason. And in addition to that, funding, trafficking, and genocide. I believe there's over 100 million around the world that need to be arrested, and we need to see or know with absolute certainty, not through AI-generated memes. We save the kids, and they don't see this for sure for our generations going forward. This is the generation, every man, every woman, every freaking teenager needs to know that this is the line in the sand, and we must see heads cut off, people hung, people shot, people with lethal injection, provided there's unequivocal evidence of the fact that they've done these crimes. And it ends there. We end the constant perpetuity of evil in our societies going forward, and our children are saved going forward.
Justified passion, and so well said, and a great close to the chapter in question that we kicked off a bit ago. Thank you so much, Brad. I want to ask our panel right now to give me a 30-second answer on this, and then we're going to move into Venezuela, Mexico, and a few other issues. This is an important question. The reason it can pretty much be answered, I believe, pretty quickly is because I think you know the answer. And the reason I want to raise the question is you got the MAGA wafflers and you got the target audience having a field day right now on Comey and Letitia. And I'm, for one, I'm tired of it. So what happened? What is the civilian recourse? And will justice be served to Comey and Letitia and others that may fall into this category soon? Ricardo Bossi, sir.
Yeah, they'll all be taken out. Nobody gets away this time. Nobody gets away this time, all the way down to the bottom. The entire system is coming down. The entire structure has been dismantled. It'll be rebuilt, and we're going to have to go through a period of relearning how to be human again, because we've been so demoralized through brainwashing, the full parade of crimes against us will be revealed, and then we can go. But everyone's going down, folks. Just relax. You'll be very satisfied. You'll be very satisfied.
Thank you, sir. Colonel Sellers, please.
I agree with Ricardo. I think this is the beginning of the dominoes, the beginning of all the dominoes that are coming down, and that's why I think they are going to be held accountable. And it's a good thing. It's a really good thing. And I hope these 6 Democrats who came out with the seditious, BS that they came up with, I hope they pay the price too. I mean, I'm not saying it's the death penalty. It might not be, but they sure as hell shouldn't have their jobs.
Well, you're in good company. The president has called that out publicly. Michael Jaco, same question. And if you wouldn't mind also answering, Michael, will Comey and Letitia end up in the tribunal, or does it business get taken care of on the other side?
Yeah, absolutely. Military tribunals, I'm sure all of us have been either part of them or seen them or know people that have been part of them. It's extremely efficient, hours to come to a decision, and then there's justice, whatever that might be. You're confined, or you go out, you stand on a platform, and it drops, and you don't drop all the way. So there's probably going to be a lot of that. I think there's 6 people in the Democrat Party are going to face that. That's my views on that, and I think that's going to be the justice that we're going to see for a lot of these people.
Thank you, Michael. Derek Johnson.
What's the typical, again, you bait them, you bait the people. This is all that is. It's just showing the exposure of that. Then you got to go to President Trump's post just a couple of days ago. When the judicial system fails, you go to military tribunals. And you can most certainly try civilians in military tribunals. That's Title 10, Chapter 47, Section 802, Article 2 of the military law. And then one other thing is President Trump, I got to meet one of his best friends who's the only person who can still call him Donnie. All right. And he said, right when my friend Donnie looks like he's about to lose, that's when the storm's coming in. So they're getting everybody prepared. This is just set the stage for the tribunals, not federal anything.
Great. Thanks for citing those codes on civilians being tried in military tribunals. Very, very important. Everyone take note. Brad, take this on, sir.
Well, when the Commander-in-Chief of Australia, whom I've identified for years, Ricardo Bossi, Lieutenant Colonel, says it's going to happen, then it's going to happen, especially with the other men assembled here with Michael and Colonel Sellers as well at the highest levels ever in America. And to back that up, just a few days ago, the DOJ announced that they had arrested 7 Canadians from Quebec to Ontario to Alberta, and they were hunting another Canadian and extraditing them to America to stand justice in America. So those comms are wide open right now, everybody. But again, I'll go back to what I just said earlier with passion. don't just sit there and wait for it to happen on X. I would like to see everybody get out there and demanding the justice. Thank you, John.
Perfect. Thank you. Epstein. This brings us to the Epstein files. As this panel pointed out way back when, the target audience and the MAGA wafflers were all out against Trump when Trump said certain things about the hoax of the Epstein list and, blah, 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 that this was a ploy. This panel called it out as a strategic maneuver. Well, this panel has been proven right. But where is this heading now that we've advanced to this stage in the Epstein release? And how do you see this playing out for the Clintons who refuse to appear? Ricardo Bossi.
This is where you need to stock up on the popcorn. Again, watch the show. Look, we know that they've both gone down. We know this is part of the show. They've been charged, been tried, found guilty, executed. That's done. So what we're watching now is the slow reveal. So once again, remember, as Brad said, as a very successful screenwriter that he is, he knows how to tell a story. So that's the way you're going to see it. So it's just keeping everything alive, watching the Clintons go down, watching them be charged, watching everybody get charged, everybody go down. It's just watch it, folks. There's nothing to say and do other than demand justice. Keep demanding justice. They need, as Brad said, they need people calling out for it. But second guessing the actual actors on stage, you can do it if you want to. But have you ever had that girlfriend, you're sitting there watching a movie and she leans across and says, "But I thought that guy died last week. What happened to the other one? Oh, he's the one that, oh, okay." Let it go, folks. It's done. It's dusted. Just make sure you keep demanding justice.
All right. Take note to the, what do we call the target audience? Take note. And the MAGA wafflers, take note. Or you're being exposed if you continue to turn on our commander-in-chief, our president, in this military operation. That brings us to Chuck Sellers, sir.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I think it's just going to all be pretty much by the numbers from now on. And what Ricardo was saying, I agree. Some of these people, it's to put the narrative at rest. So you get the crescendo, and then you have the trial or the tribunal, and now you have the denouement, and it's over. A lot of these people, I believe the Clintons have been gone for years. Not only them, there's others that have been gone for years, but someone still has to play their part because in the big charade, because everybody wasn't ready for the denouement.
Right.
So
correct.
That's coming. And it's going to be theater there also, but the only way we're ever going to get back sane as a race, I mean a human race, is to have the crescendo and a denouement on this whole damn story of the utter corruption of all of these fools, who played us for all of these years. We have to get to a better place, and you're going to have to go through the hard times to get there,
Yes. Understood. Thank you, sir. Michael Jacob.
So before President Trump left in 2020, they basically made sure they had all the evidence. We've just recently saw where they found a burn bag. That's so it's kind of like one of those things where, we found all this information. You guys didn't know that we had this. You thought you destroyed it all in the last 4 years, didn't you? And you're going to bring out this Epstein stuff and make us look bad. Oh, well, we have all this stuff on you. So we're starting to see people resign on the
Yes.
Democrat side. You're going to continue to see that. There's going to be unbelievable justice that's going to happen from this. We've heard that we have it all on them, and they're pretty much they're toast. That's what we're coming to. So it's going to be justice like you've never seen it before. Yes, the popcorn is going to be quite tasty, and we've all been enjoying it for quite some time, but it's going to get even better going forward.
Yes, Larry Summers comes to mind when you talk about people stepping aside because we got them in the burn bag, if you want to use that not only expression but fact. Great stuff, Derek Johnson.
I'd like to also add really quick before I get on the actual subject that keep in mind to the target audience out there, keep in mind that every one of these gentlemen right here, so Colonel Sellers was one step away from a general. We have a lieutenant colonel and a chief here. They all know many generals and admirals. So keep that in mind as well. So I just want everybody to remember that, the high level of respect that all these gentlemen command. Also, in the military occupation, all right, this is kind of how I'm going to do a quick summary of this. In a military occupation with the people like the Clintons, as Colonel Sellers said, been gone for a long time, but you still need the faces, you still need the names, you still need the players and the actors and actresses. Well, this is an old tactic that Jaco could talk days and days and days of that the CIA have been doing for years, right? You still have to have special operations all the time. JFK, before he, quote unquote, all right, April 1962, all right, he was talking about guerrilla warfare and that we needed to implement that in our military and be the leaders of it and dominate that. That way we always dominated the rest of the world in the field who tried to grow and to do exactly what the deep state's done all these years. So there's that. So in a military occupation like this, right, there's certain players that are doing certain things. There's certain people who are real, certain people who aren't, good that look bad and bad that look good, etc. So I like to do this in the timely manner of Christmas coming up for certain people, right? Well, the movie Home Alone is going to be played a lot. In the portion where the little dude's sitting on the steps and he goes, "Hey, you morons, you guys give up or you thirsty for more?" Right? Well, the only person who can actually exonerate President Trump, it's not us. It's not any high-level ranking military. It's the other side. All right, but you put them in positions when you can find them back here, and every one of these men who have been in those positions know this. You put them back here and say, "Look, you have a conscience. You can tell us now, or we're going to play your freaking movie to the public, what you think is your legacy, and we'll trash President Trump. He's okay with that because he signed on for this." And then the finale, though, as the colonel just said, the crescendo, well, the finale is going to be, though, then the people are going to find out what you were really doing. And you can have your way in history. So President Trump and the good men and women who signed on to this, it's always looking at history, how history is going to judge you. All right. And you don't want to go down in history as a Napoleon. I can tell you right now, if you're a good person with a conscience, if you don't have a conscience, then you're going to be taken out anyway. Look at Hakeem Jeffries. He's a perfect example right now of someone that they built up. He stood there like James Stewart on Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and the liberals were like, "Oh, that's our hero. Look how long he's standing in there talking." And all of a sudden, he probably should, even though I know it's all part of the theater, but for them, he should have consulted with Hillary on how to delete his emails because he's linked to right into Epstein after Epstein was convicted of sex crimes, right? Asking for money. Just typical Democrat. We know that. Typical liberals. All right, so then Epstein had the most perfect leverage when he was living on President Trump. President Trump didn't become the threat January the 20th, 2025. President Trump became the threat June the 16th, 2015 when he rolled down the escalator. So guess who was still living at that point? Epstein. All right, and there's no any evidence of President Trump with any correspondence during this time period ever. When he said he etched him out, he etched him out. So who would have had the greatest leverage on President Trump if he was in these quote-unquote files? Epstein would have had that. His first run-in with the law was 2005. So people got to do the math there, divorce your feelings and emotions, and also know that in another theory, the justice system way back then didn't do what they were supposed to do. So this is also a waste of taxpayer money if it was a real situation, right? It'd be a waste of that, taking this through oversight committees and all this other things that they should be doing other things, right? So the judicial system. And then one last point. If you hated President Trump, if you truly hate the man, and you say he's a dictator, a king, a pedophile, a threat, wouldn't you try to abolish every single thing that he put into place? So how was it that all the Title 10 and Title 32 military orders made it through 2021 to 2025? How was it none of the tariffs were revoked or terminated? How did all these things, laws and orders of President Trump, get to 2025? That's all you need to know.
Thank you, Derek. I want to make a quick comment before we take this question to Brad. You acknowledge, and rightly so, the respect that this panel has earned and deserves for their incredible service in uniform and out of uniform, because that oath never sunsets. I want to acknowledge that as well, and I want to let our audience understand something. This isn't some podcast. This is a military and intelligence panel of brave, heroic experts weighing in on the things that are on your minds today. You should listen up, do some homework, but listen up. This isn't just some entertaining podcast. This is a military and intelligence panel that we bring to you each and every month. And having said that, let's go to Brad Wozni to close out this question surrounding the Epstein issue.
Yeah, and I echo those sentiments, John. This is not just a podcast, and I really hope that is driven home for the audience. I know it definitely is for most people as well too. And maybe next time I'll call my sister and bring her in, because I had a little bit of the military side, but she had a lot of the intelligence. And if people have forgotten a little bit about that, both her and I have been at the Pentagon, but she also taught at the Pentagon. She taught at the DIA and the NSA before CISA scooped her up. Took her there for an 8-year career. She went dark for 2 years. And when she popped back up under the Harper administration, where she was giving the prime minister briefs, but Americans are familiar with the PDB, the Presidential Daily Briefing, she ran the team that oversaw that to give it towards the exit of her career, because of stuff that went on. So she saw a lot. Again, part of the Five Eyes back in the day. And as it relates to Epstein, I can tell you 100% verified that this relates to all the child trafficking rings and the exposures throughout the world. And for the Canadians watching and listening, Picton Pig Farm, that goes back to the 1970s. The Clintons are implicated in it. Trudeau's, both of them, Trudeau #1, before Justine Trudeau, Castro's potentially daughter, who became a man, who became the guy who invoked the Emergencies Act, just like his au pair, Pierre, did on Canadians. It goes directly to that. I 100% verify that, and that is direct from me, direct from the individual that can confirm this at the administration right now. So this is being unveiled very quickly. It will roll out, rather. It's been unveiled, just a few drips, but will roll out extremely quickly. And some of the names that are on that list that I saw, but I was asked not to share, will blow everybody away at the target audience levels. And these names, I encourage you to get ready for stuff that will shock you, which will go back generations even. And I'm not even talking about entertainment and movies and actors and producers, whatnot. I'm talking at any level of your institutions, whether it's education to documentary. Yes, we know politics and business people will blow you away to where the entire world, if they're not chanting for justice, they will be screaming for it, and they will go out on their own, and they will want to take those people out themselves, from some of the names that are on that list that I have been asked and promised not to reveal. And
wow.
Only a few. I don't know. I don't want to pretend like I know it all. I don't. I'm talking about a few just in Canada and a couple in the States that I was shown.
Thank you, Brad. To one of my producers, two producers pulling the show off right now. To Sandy, let's have a follow-up with Brad after post-show here regarding his sister as well. Thank you, Brad. Very important. All right, so we've got one or two more subjects to take on. Now we arrive at Venezuela. Patrick Byrne, who I've met several times, had the privilege and opportunity to support and help him in the early days with Flynn's organizations in Sarasota area of Florida, as well as interviewing him back in the days at American Media Periscope. Recently, and I encourage our audience to go there for gaining further insights into Pat Byrne, I interviewed Patrick Byrne on Conversations of Consequence, a different show I have where I feature some of the most important voices of our time. And you'll gain some great insights into the man and the sacrifice and risks that he has taken on behalf of this country and the rest of the world. Of course, when I speak of Venezuela, I think of Patrick Byrne right now, who, in my opinion, laid a lot of the groundwork very successfully in Venezuela, resulting in a $25 million bounty on his head. And now we have President Trump blowing the drug cartel vessels to smithereens, and thank goodness for that. Now, let's peel the curtain back a bit. We'll start with Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bossi. What is the full story that is unfolding, perhaps a little bit more behind the scenes, concerning Venezuela, and where does this take us, and how does this end with Venezuela?
I heard a podcast recently from a guy, ex-Special Forces guy, and he indicated he wasn't keen to go back to another jungle to fight local bad guys. And that was his view of Venezuela. Okay, let's elevate our thinking a fraction. Oh, maybe it's about drugs. Keep going. Maybe it's about human trafficking. Keep going. The levels that'll be exposed over time, and I'll stop at the human trafficking bit. There are levels above that. But Venezuela is a hub in more than one way for the highest level of not just depravity, but just the money going through that place. And it's got nothing to do with growing dope, I can tell you that. So the levels at which that are being exposed, what the issues are quite significant. There's a reason why Venezuela is the target. Of all the targets down in South America, why aren't they hitting other places? Because, well, they're not as important as Venezuela. And you've got to put your thinking cap on to figure out what else is going on down there. And as I said, it's not just about the human trafficking, billions of dollars being transferred through the country, through the mechanism there. And it's got nothing to do with the people. The people are fine. Venezuela should be one of the richest countries on the planet. It was on its way to becoming one of the richest countries on the planet. It is just rich with resources. It should be heaven on earth. The communists got in, but again, this is not about communism. Communism is a control mechanism. It's not, to each their need and to each their ability. It's got nothing to do with that. It's a control mechanism. We know that. They got in, destroyed the joint, and turned it into a very serious hub. It's almost second to, this is a big call, and I'm probably wrong, and I'll get shouted down, but it's probably second to Ukraine in terms of its importance to global movement of all things bad. And that'll give you an insight into what's going on down there. It's not quite, but it's probably an overstatement. But just so people are aware, this is just more than, I don't want to shoot drug boats because there are women and children in the boat. It's much, much bigger than that. When that goes down, watch the rest of Southcom fall into line.
Wow, thank you, sir. Lieutenant Colonel Colonel Sellers.
Yeah, I agree with Ricardo. All of if you go back and you take a big picture of South America and all of the bad things that happen in South America, a lot of drug-related smuggling, human trafficking, all of that. The one of the commonalities there is that a lot of those roads lead right into Venezuela, and I read some pretty horrific articles just in the last few days, because we're always talking about drugs coming out of Venezuela, but the child trafficking is apparently horrendous down there. And there's actually, I think there are actually operations that are probably pending right now that we're going to see some special operations type things happening on the ground there, and not necessarily against the cartel because of drugs, but because of child trafficking and child rescue. I think that's pending. I think that's all part of this thing. There's so many levels of criminality that are going on in that country. And people think of it, it's just the cartels. It's like in Mexico, it's the cartels. No. This is the criminal organizations that are being coordinated and supported by the communist Venezuelan government. This is a different thing, because this is like they're using all of the engines of economics, warfare, all of it, but they're using it in a bad way. And they're controlling it and coordinating it at the highest level of the Venezuelan government. That's bad. that is a bad thing, and that needs. I think that in the end, that is going to be changed, because that's the nexus of it all, and it has to be changed if we're going to stop it.
Thank you, sir. Very important. Michael Jaco?
Yeah, we just saw recently in Brazil where the military, specialized military and police went into this one residential area and hit the drug cartels and so forth really hard. It was like a battle going on for, a day or two. That is the opening round of what's coming all across that region. So Bolsonaro was basically taken out just like Trump was. And Lula, who is there, is part of the drug cartels. He did not come down and help those guys when they were down there getting shot up. He didn't send any reinforcements. So that's an indicator also of what we're going to see in American cities with some of these mayors and governors that are also part of the drug cartels and so forth. So it's a big operation. It's not just Venezuela. It's Colombia. It's Brazil. It's probably some other countries down there. And, of course, Mexico and America. So we have a lot of stuff that's going down. I think it's going to be a lot of people are going to be involved in this. We may see the Aussies come in and help out. We may see, some of the other countries come in and help out. But it's going to be pretty significant. There's going to be a lot of people going down. But, we're the best military in the world still, and we can do a lot of stuff. We can do a lot of stuff very quickly, and a lot of people are going to find out really soon.
Thank you. Excellent. Derek Johnson?
I'm glad this is not a 30-second segment, so I'll start with that. So law enforcement, what's funny is the liberals, I'll start out with something humorous. The liberals and Democrats, they're all talking about that this is law enforcement's jurisdiction. I'm like, that right there should show you, if you're in the civilian sector, the target audience, to never trust a Democrat or a liberal ever again. Because since when does the Caribbean Sea, Venezuela, when is that law enforcement? Our law enforcement, our regular law enforcement. So that's the humorous portion. The other portion that's also kind of humorous for Democrats to show you that they don't know what they're talking about is the executive order with the national emergency put into place for Venezuela was Obama. Executive Order 13692, and it's still active to this day. So that's one of those that they were going to leave open, drag out for 30, 40 years, call that diplomacy, and make their residuals because they're all cut in on every aspect of trafficking. Now, the drug trafficking portion is what funds a lot of the child and sex trafficking. So that's why it's important to take note on the vessels. That's not the whole operation. That's just stuff they're giving people to let you know what region we're working in right now. It was this panel in April, specifically, Brad, that Brad and I talked about this the other day. This panel in April when General Vallely was on and he talked about his two-part plan with the special operations. He said this in April, ladies and gentlemen. Now you're seeing that take place to the full extent. The special operators, he specifically said we have special operations on the ground, ready to roll in Mexico, Central, South America, etc. All right, really quick in that 692, it's quite humorous that there's a senator or a congresswoman out there that said President Trump didn't have the authority to invoke the International Economic Emergency Powers Act. Well, even if he didn't do that and didn't ever do that, it's already invoked in that 13692. So see, anytime that the law was passed over to a new president, it was still open if they kept it open. So that's why no one can say any of this is against the law because, hey, all these things have been in law long before 2017. And this executive order specifically was 2015. So it's open, so President Trump would have a field day with it anyways. The other thing that President Trump, one key note, as Jaco just said about our military, we're badass. We can handle a lot of things. But one key note that President Trump said a long time ago was the word decimation. All right, we're going to obliterate you, decimate you. This isn't some operations where they're just going to go in and just tackle a few cartels, etc. This whole thing, the whole capitulation and all these nations that capitulated to President Trump, the 45-47, is gearing up for all these operations. It will be complete obliteration. Also, what you just saw launched in the news, for a lot of people thought this was new, the Operation Southern Spear for Venezuela. No. This is the second phase of it. The first phase was back here, April the 1st, 2020, the enhanced counter-narcotics operation on April the 1st that Southern Command launched with 22 joint partners. And as Jaco just said, it's multiple countries down there. This is not just Venezuela. And it tells you in the Southern Command article that even a portion, 50% of those 22 joint partners, a lot of the operations are coming out of there, meaning like that their own nations are also experiencing every aspect of what we're operating with, and the boots on the ground down there, etc. Then you got to go to also the transnational organizations. President Trump just labeled a Muslim group a transnational organization just in the last day or two. All right, well, this also ties in to Executive Order 13773 from 2017. So there's an executive order that made it all through 21 to 25 that Biden, Obama, whoever you want to think out there, even though I know it's all occupational, but for the target audience that hadn't wrapped your mind around that, how did that executive order make it through? It is the specific order that is on the Department of Justice website for the transnational organizations. All right, it overrides what President Reagan had put into place. And then President Trump just posted today, he's not posting a whole lot right now, by the way. He just posted today, though, about census rigging, about the Democrats. This is how they rigged it. So this also ties in the Smartmatic and Dominion systems that were running out of Venezuela as well. See, that's where it all ties into. And he's being told, all the low-level hanging fruit liberals, Democrats think that he's rigging the system. No, we're taking back what's ours and what was rigged this whole time, because there's no such thing as a swing state or a battleground state. That is their cheating. They put it right in front of everybody. So in December 2020, after November, as Jaco alluded to earlier, we have it all. We caught them all. Well, it's that old saying, we're going to let the rope out. Well, if you give them enough rope, they'll hang themselves. So he said that in November. December, President Trump, December the 14th specifically, he filed via the United States Supreme Court, via the state of Texas, a state he's never lived in or has property in that I know of. He filed via 7 swing states of 2020. Never before in history have the same battleground states been the battleground states to the next election. That shows you this is an operation. He won every one of those 7 swing states, not by vote, ladies and gentlemen, only by lawsuit. That's what that tells you when he put those posts up that he won those 7 battleground states. So, see, if you know those things, you know what's coming down the road, which will be your disclosure, and then your closure will be in the golden age, and then all this stuff will be exposed. And as Brad said, they'll be in the streets wanting justice once they build this up a little bit more. But this is way more than just drug trafficking. That's just to show people where our military is operating.
Excellent analysis. Great information. Thank you so much, Derek. And I've taken a few notes for next month's panel. We're going to jump into the Islamic mess and the changes that are taking place. We're going to delve into that deeply next episode, and we're going to delve deeply into 2020. It ain't over yet, as Juan O'Savin reminds us, and how important that is. We're going to jump into these issues as well as the null and void presidencies that may go all the way back to George Herbert Walker Bush. We're going to jump into all of that next episode. Great stuff, Derek Johnson. Closing that question out with Brad Wozny. Then we're on the final run of the show here. We'll wrap up shortly after this. Brad, any weigh in on Venezuela? I think we've got it. There you are. You're unfrozen now. Thank you.
Sorry about that, John. What was the question again? It was breaking up on my.
No problem. We're kind of you're very good at bookending it, since you've been the last guy in the question panel. Bookend, if you will, your views of Venezuela. More than just blowing the ships out of the water. The panel has weighed in on that. Any additional comments or feedback regarding Venezuela?
Well, most certainly. So this is the antithesis of what's representative in every freaking country around the world, which considers itself a first world country. And you can start first and foremost with the immigrant invasion. And what we're using this, the way I see it in my purview, is that this is the counterpoint to, okay, so you have drug trafficking and child trafficking and cartel type operations. But as you guys have already well pointed out, you literally have a rogue state, is what you would call it if it was a Tom Clancy novel from the 80s once again, right? You have Maduro and the cartel, which are set up and being puppeted by hidden actors behind them, which might all go back to communist China and certain factions there, as well as other deep state operations from other countries around the world that are focusing on that to be a fulcrum to then go out and take down America, take down Canada, and then take down other Commonwealth countries and be a nice hub for its operations. So it's being flipped back, in my opinion, for the world right now to go, here's what that represents. But just from an extension to that on a storyline, that's happening in your Denver, Colorado, and other municipalities, your Seattle, your New York City with Mandami. I mean, my goodness, right? I've been at ground zero during rescue efforts going on. I've seen and had clients in the World Trade Center towers, and even in Building 7 with the CIO on BlackBerry email to me while I'm in Waterloo saying we have to evacuate. And oh my gosh, a plane wing hit our building and it dropped. And then they fired the missile into the Pentagon, which has been verified by Wano Sabin, which he said came from an Israeli submarine, which surfaced in the Potomac and fired the Tomahawk cruise missile into the Pentagon, of which I also happened to be on the BlackBerry team receiving emails from them, Booz Allen Hamilton and other military operations that were killed or were surrounding that. Michael has been there just very shortly after that was fired into the Pentagon. So again, what we're seeing this to be is that antithesis of cancer that is representative in every segment of society, whether it is the immigrant invasions that have been brought over, and you can call it the radical Islamics, but you also have in Vancouver, BC, Khalistanis who were kicked out of India saying you're a terrorist group. So they come to Vancouver, they go to places like Surrey, BC, they set themselves up, and then they're walking around with daggers and swords and saying they want to kill Indians in the streets of Vancouver or Surrey, BC, and that's okay and that's fine. So this is a part for us to focus on right now, all of the patriots to go, what's happening in Venezuela and the way that President Trump and the White Hat Alliance are handling that and have carrier strike groups on both sides, choke points in the Pacific and the Atlantic, and taking them out and halting the operations, taking back the Panama Canal. So now you have the real southern border from Panama all the way up to Greenland over here, to Alaska over here, and that beautiful Monroe Doctrine going Western Hemisphere protected. But in order to do that, it also requires the participation by every American and every Canadian and every Venezuelan who wants freedom, who wants liberty, every South American, every Brit, every German, every Aussie, every Kiwi, every Tassie, you name it, to say what's happening there. This needs to root out the evil. We need that to happen in my town, my municipality, my territory, my province, my state. That's what I want. And that, from my perspective, is exactly why we're putting more focus on that while other operations are happening on the sidelines, which don't make the headlines for good reason. Does that make sense?
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Thank you, Brad. So we can see, folks, there's more to Venezuela than meets the eye. This will be one of those 60 to 30 second answers on this next question. Then we're going to wind the show down with some important dialogue that we're going to spend some time on. Let's talk about Mexico. Going to retired Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bossi. Uprising in Mexico is of recent. Any brief comments on what's taking place in Mexico that is noteworthy to put on the record?
No, I've got nothing on Mexico. Sorry, John.
No problem. Thank you, sir. Colonel Sellis, please.
I just the thing that struck me was I think President Trump just in the last few days, I believe I remember him saying it is he was I think he was talking to the press. Somebody asked him a question about it, and he goes, "Yeah, if I needed to take out some cartels in Mexico, I would send military in to do that. Yeah, I would." That answered everything for
Mhm.
me. They are on the target list, and I think this has got to be a wake up call for the cartels in general because they're not playing softball anymore. I mean, we are not playing softball anymore,
Right.
and all of these guys are on the target list, and all they have to do is look, see who's disappearing, and where they're going, and all this. And you know, you're on the list too. It's coming.
Thank you, sir. Mike?
Yeah, like Brad said, the people are ready to rise up. They want blood, and so they're going to get it. And so revolution coming from Mexico, and we're going to help that out. We're going to like hit the cartels. We're like President Trump said, yeah, maybe we need to bomb them. And so the press, of course, went all crazy with that. But that's coming. Now they've already practiced in Mexico to come across our border, and they were just doing that recently. So. It's going back and forth. It's gearing up. It's getting ready to launch. It'll be interesting when it happens.
Thank you. It brings home the title that this panel, particularly Derek Johnson in the early days of the panel, raised the issue, and that is that President Donald Trump is the supreme commander in chief of the Allied forces, rearranging the deck of this world, bringing us into a golden age. And unbelievable. I mean, it is unbelievable what every human being that's got their eyes open and their ears listening, and where the shows like this are reaching them. What an incredible time to be alive. Derek, quick comments on Mexico, please.
Well, one thing I forgot to mention on Venezuela, but it applies to also Mexico as well. But most of the stuff's already been done. It's just giving the people a place to be protected where they can rise up, so they're not going to be in any harm's way when they do so. But special operations, I've got records as the last like 6 months, really really thick. Special operations aircraft in and out of Mexico. All through Central America, all over the Caribbean. So our aircraft are all over that region. And then also really quick too with the Panama Canal that Brad mentioned, I wanted to add too to that really quick as you move up into Central America and then up into Mexico. But the Panama Canal is another one of those executive orders 13936 from July 2020 that has a national emergency that quote unquote Joe continued 4 years in a row just to hand back to President Trump to call him a dictator with. So see, it shows you it's an occupation, it's an operation, everything is shielded, everything is captured that needs to be captured. And then one thing like President Trump to show the supreme commander. Now, naturally, your Democrats and liberals, your low-level hanging fruit that are still regular civilian target audience, they're going to say, that it's unetiquette and uncouth and all these other things. But when you know all the laws and orders, just for example, the Saudi prince, you don't put your hands on the Saudi prince in public like President Trump did. So that shows you right there he's the supreme commander. And that's just one of the many things that's been shown. But Mexico goes back to General Valle that Brad knows really well, and deserves all the accolades in the world again, and a happy early birthday to him. But the special operations in Mexico. So the Mexican people have to want that too. And just to keep in mind, the whole feature was Del Rio and Eagle Pass, Texas, back during your border situations. But the closest nation that was in Del Rio that they were saying on the media, this should show people, was 1,536 miles, and all four regions would have had to cross water to get there. All right, so that shows you right there that Mexico had to stand. They had to stand and fight too. So it's great to see people all over the world that are rising up and realizing that we're all common. every Spanish person I know, and I serve with a lot more Spanish people than I serve with anyone. And their family values and their religious values and principles are top notch. So, a lot of Americans in my region, especially in the South, tend to forget that. They tend to think that because a country seems like it's a bad country or awry, that there's not good people in each country, and there are most certainly amazing people all over the world. So it's great to see, though, that people are rising up, and the ones that aren't, they're going to get left behind and wish they would have been a part of it.
We're all God's children. We're all brothers and sisters, and the unity, country by country, person by person, is unstoppable against the evil satanic forces that have made Earth a living hell. That's coming to an end. Brad Wozni, if you would like to bookend this for us, I'd appreciate it. And we're going to get into our final question.
I'm glad you brought up Mexico, because those people there, they really highlight the journey that they've been under. And for example, to that fact, Michael and I were together for a better part of a week in Cancun, Mexico, just a year ago, springtime. And the Sheinbaum election was going on. She hadn't been elected as president yet. But a mutual friend that we were talking to there, a guy by the name of Cameron, like, how many candidates are running against her? And he said there were 31. They were all executed and taken out by cartel. And just a week ago, we saw a mayor of another town in Mexico who was executed on camera because he asked the president, Sheinbaum, to come in and handle the cartel because he wanted to clean up his town. So there's a massive heart in those people. It doesn't go back to any ancient civilizations, primarily Roman Catholic. Dios es primero. They typically say vaya con Dios. They know what is right, and they've been living under a forced boot, and they want freedom as well. Just like everybody who has been born under God's light or come to it across our great earth. And I think if we just stand up and we speak out, the powers that be might feel they have more permission to move faster and don't have to do their part and keep awakening people. It's our part.
Thank you, Brad. And again, to the target audience and MAGA wafflers, we hope you're listening very clearly to this panel. We're winding down the episode here. Long setup, so give me a few minutes here, because I'm going to be raising multiple points. So I'm not giving this esteemed panel instructions, but you might want to jot down some notes to capture everything I'm about to walk us through and turn into a question. So here we go. The National Guard is ready, along with other military support here at home in every state. The bond market implosion has begun. Juan has reported on this. It will be epic. So is Jamie Dimon, for whatever that's worth. With the economic moves at play, namely the tariffs, currency war, and battle of the resets, dismantling of the Federal Reserve and the IRS, coupled with all we have already been discussing in this broadcast, sure seems to me that Gitmo is calling. How close are we to the arrests of many? And I understand, again, a lot of this has taken place, a lot of it, some of it hasn't. It'll all be surfaced. So how close are we to the arrests of many, including namely Clinton and Obama, and or the reveal of what has already taken place in Gitmo and other locations? I'll conclude in a moment. And due to the criticalness at this juncture in these final dangerous battles, the enemy will hit us hard. And Juan has told us that our NDE, America's, or near-death experience, has not yet arrived. He's still on the record. I asked him on camera last month. Do you think that President Donald J. Trump will invoke, now we're going back to what Michael raised earlier, do you think that President Trump will invoke the Insurrection Act? Will he officially declare martial law, and if so, what way, in what locations, and what so forth? Break all that down, if you can, for us, panel. Break this down for us, as it seems to me somewhat imminent and very important. I know that's a mouthful. I'm happy to repeat certain aspects or bring clarity to the question, but we'll take it to the top of the board here with retired Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bossi.
The first point was arrest. We're going to have my guess, we're going to have a happy Christmas, which will indicate there's sufficient will have happened, and you can define what's sufficient for you. We'll have sufficient cause for celebration coming into Christmas for those of us that celebrate Christmas. That's point number one. Point number two, the near-death experience, it will occur, but it's the white hats will leave it to the very last safe possible moment. There is going to be pain, whether it's geographically isolated pushback from black hat strongholds or what form it takes. It'll have all and everything you can imagine it might be. But what I'm fairly certain about, it'll be the last safe possible moment. People will be in pain, they will be frightened, and near-death experience, indeed, yeah, that's a good expression for it, because everybody has to be woken up, and we have too many people that are still worrying about their Bitcoin. Will I have $3 billion or $4 billion? Oh, Jesus, I tell you, your focus is on the wrong thing. If that's what the target audience out there is focused on, they're in for a world of pain. The rest of us know what's coming. It's like catching a big wave. You might get dumped, but you'll get through it. These people are going to drown. And your last point, John, what was that one?
Good question. Let me pedal back. We cover the NDE aspect, Insurrection Act, martial law. Are we getting close to these measures? It looks like we are, in my humble opinion. But your view is far more valuable than mine here.
Yeah, no, you've beautifully. I think it is coming, but the martial law will only occur when the people demand it, quite literally. The White Hats are more or less ready to go. We're getting close. We know we're getting closer. For example, Trump, through Rubio, has now started collecting global statistics on the civilizational war which is being conducted by the uncontrolled migration, the two-tier justice systems and policies that Western governments are applying on their people. That's a big thing, right? The king, really? And he's actually now telling the world, okay, give me your stats, we're going to find out what's going on, and we're going to start taking some action. So that's a huge comp. That's a whole show in and of itself. And so the king demanded, it can't happen. And is it going to come in terms of an announcement? More than likely, but this is going to come towards the end. They said Israel's last, not even close. We're still working through South America. There are all these events that have to happen. The financial crash, the near-death experience, because that's going to be more than just finances. We're now talking frazzle drip. We're talking adrenochrome, that viscerally disgusting and depraved behavior by the black hats. There's a lot to come out in a short period of time. There's a lot. Mm-hmm. And so martial law announced quite probably, but once it is obviously the only possible solution in the minds of the target audience.
Thank you. We had a bit of a delay there, but we've got you on record. Thank you, Ricardo. And to our audience, Colonel Sellers normally is stationed at his desk with the camera and the standard technology to deliver his presence here. He was unable to do that for some reason today. So a lot of the gyrations and issues you've seen with Colonel Sellers is because he's operating on a cell phone. Hopefully he'll join us back. If he doesn't, we thank him for his contributions to this panel today. That takes us to Mike Jaco. I'm happy to repeat and comb through some of the issues that I raised here if you need me to, Mike, but if not, please take it away.
Yeah, so the Insurrection Act will probably happen once we do the invasion. Whether that happens soon or whether it happens after the new year remains to be seen. For me, I think it's close. I think it's like within a week or so. So I think that's going to happen. Economically, I think that if we don't go into some kind of conflict this side of Christmas, then sometime in the springtime we're going to see a financial crash of the stock markets around the world. But what we're seeing right now, like you talked about the bond market, it's already imploding. Mm-hmm. So I don't know we're going to have that much time for the stock market to do its normal thing where it goes to unbelievable highs and then it crashes. So we may see this thing unravel pretty soon. Fed, IRS, Trump wants to, his legacy will be he will remove the Fed. The Fed will go away. Yes. The IRS will go away. We will have fair voting same day with the paper ballot. That will be his legacy. And if we were not to get voting, he could change everything, and then the Democrats get back in power, and they'll just do away with it. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to see at least another 12 years worth of Fed or Donald Trump type of I don't know who that's going to be, but he's not going to stay there that long. But maybe JD Vance, but we'll see. The arrest will be pretty significant. It's going to take a long time. We had the revolution, and it wasn't that long later that we had the War of 1812. So it's going to be a process to take out the evil that's here in America and the world. But I think it's going to happen fairly quickly. The liberals here in America are gearing up for a civil war. There could be, and they're training. I've seen it on Alex Jones. He's talked about how there's all these groups that are, have been training. A lot of people that sell guns. When President Trump came into office the first time, he saw like the liberals and the pink hairs, the green hairs coming in and buying guns and shooting and all that kind of stuff. So I don't see that much from them. But of course, during the Civil War, we duked it out pretty good with the Democrats. So I think that this time there's not going to be widespread. I think it'll be militia involvement from people like myself and Derek Johnson. So I don't know. Maybe we get involved. Maybe we don't have to. But I think there's going to be a lot of just real quick cleanup. They'll move to the cities. Some of the big cities will resist for a while, and then we'll clean those up. But it's here. It's very, very, very close. We may have a good Christmas. I predicted last year that I saw that Christmas would not be so happy, but I'll always like to see that I'm wrong in some things in my predictions. But I hope that however it goes down, it's quick. It's not as brutal and nasty as it could be. I don't think it will be. But it's gonna come. There's going to be a cleanse.
Thank you. Great insights and wisdom there, Michael. And I just a quick comment, and we'll continue on the panel. My quick comment to the target audience, to the MAGA wafflers, to anyone listening. When Michael said we're going to get rid of the Federal Reserve and the IRS, I know a lot of people going, yeah, right, sure, that's never going to happen. Okay, that's a typical response within those segments. Well, you know what? I'll remind you of this to our audience. When President Trump took the podium and it was inaugurated in 2016, and he brought the military brass there as a clear statement, he said, I'm giving you back your country. I'm returning the power back to the people. Well, we know the great American coup of 1913 swept away the issuing power and control of our currency. And so how could President Trump return the constitutional republic and the power back to the people while keeping the Federal Reserve and its cousin, the IRS, sitting there intact? Not going to happen. Michael is absolutely spot on. They're being dismantled. They're being taken down. It's going away. And for the other great point Michael raised, because later, if Democrats, if and when that party still exists, or people of that mindset get back into power, they don't have those machines and those systems to take things down any further. Great stuff, Michael. Derek Johnson.
Well, there's no other reason to have a President Trump as far as if people want to waffle, right? Again, there would be no reason to have a guy who was never in politics and also never in the military to come in, which specifically the way you prove that, again, are the laws and the orders that are currently invoked, which is what we keep stressing. It sounds like a broken record, but it's all in the blueprint, the formula, and it's in a sequence as well, what's been taking place, and it had to be done this way. And so there's no other reason why a man like him, if I can use humor here, I'll just show you something. I have buddies that don't have names and faces to the audience out there, but I asked a buddy of mine, I said, hey man, if you're a billionaire, we're talking about a buddy who was in the military, so this is military humor. I said, man, if you were a billionaire, would you, and this is not military occupation, military operation, and hey, you're going to have protection, but just straight up on a normal, would you try to save this country? If you were a billionaire, would you leave playing golf every day, flying wherever you want to every day, et cetera, just to have president on your title? Hell no. That's what he said. Now that's slang and humor for you. All right. And that's a veteran who he's pretty decorated and a good dude. So, but now, then you add protection, occupation, operations, all kinds of special forces. Then they'd say, yeah, obviously. But why would a man leave that just to have the title president? No way. I've seen his lifestyle, and some others have here. You wouldn't do that. So there's that. And then, as Jaco just said, look, there's a few big things that are just massive outliers that if President Trump, for the people, it just thinks this is real time and not occupation, not operation, what we know, but just for real time, if President Trump didn't do certain things and have those on his historical resume, then he would be classified as a failure or just every other president that we've had in history. And that's not what his task and role and face is put here for. So, and that's one of those is the election, the same day voting and the watermark ballots and everything else. But election interference, because that's where they have captured and controlled the United States of America, but it's also where they captured and control the world. Because Bolsonaro, talking about Brazil again, President Trump had him with him in 21 a lot. He showed him at all these different places with him, had him at CPAC as well. So that was a visual to show people there is an operation taking place. It may be far-fetched to you right now, and that's okay, but until you read, study, comprehend not only the federal government side, which still should be small, but then irregular and unconventional warfare, which means special operations and tactics and strategies. Don't be saying nah and none of those things. Now, like tariffs in a normal setting are obviously government and their presidential authority, but they're also a part of an emergency power. So when you know there's all these emergency powers invoked, then you know you're operating with the emergency power side. And the tariffs also prove what's going on. From 2021 to 2025, not one single tariff was removed by quote unquote Joe for the people that thought he was real. All right. From 2021 to 2025, not one single Obama, Clinton, Bush 1 or Bush 2 appointed judge tried to block a tariff from 21 to 2025. And they also showed America that 21 to 23, a Democrat president, Democrat House, and Democrat Senate, and they couldn't terminate one single thing by President Trump. So that alone right there, even if you don't know great details of laws and orders, should answer that there's something unique going on, and we're the ones that can tell you. Now, President Trump's alluded to, he said, from the 1870s to 1913, we have more money than we knew what to do with. Well, he's alluding to two different things. He's alluding to 1913 when the Federal Reserve was established and income tax. But he's also alluding to the fact of that's when the deep state hijacked everything because they knew the American people, the public, weren't paying attention to what was going on a daily basis because they were farmers, blacksmiths, doctors, etc. But that's why every American is always supposed to know what we know on a daily basis. I mean, it should always be kind of like the back of your eyelids, always. No, you probably won't talk about it, don't want to at every dinner table, but you're supposed to have this as a foundation. All right. Then President Trump just posted yesterday or day before, remember your oath. Now, he's not talking to you civilians. He's talking to all of us veterans in this nation, like Michael Jaco just said. He's talking about all of us that carry that oath because we might get called back into a position even outside of your typical involuntary and voluntary callbacks for your reserve components, etc. There may be a case where certain militias are needed, etc., and then we get to participate again. And I can tell you right now, there's not a smile bigger that Jaco or I or anybody can give you if they got to that depth to call us back. I don't think we're going to get there, but if we did, I can tell you right now that would be it. It would be a hard day to get me back in a uniform, because I would have to borrow some Ranger panties from Jayco or something like that. That's what we would look like going back to service, right? Whoa! You're supposed to. No, you need. We get back in the uniform. I'd be like, no, we got this right now. Let's go. Right? That's the passion and the fire that we have right here. I mean, right now I feel it. I could burst through a brick wall feeling that feeling, especially if I had a Lieutenant Colonel Bosey or Colonel Sellers or Major Jim O'Connor. If I had someone, General Paul Valalay, someone saying, hey, I need you to do this, I'm going through a brick wall. I'm going through whatever they tell me to go through. That's that feeling. And the other thing, the cowboys ain't got involved. All right. The hippies of the 60s and 70s ain't got involved. All your country boys and good old boys hadn't got involved. I mean, if the liberals wanted to try something in the United States of America, one of the most heavily armored outside of the military, but also with the military, that ain't. I don't think that's what you want. But again, if you want it, we can bring it. So that's how we in the military feel. We don't want to do that, but we want you to come over here and know what you're supposed to know. And then talking about the Insurrection Act and things of that nature. It's set up for President Trump to establish a military government because of how many people will be removed based on what we all know. Therefore, just something simple like this, and Jayco and different people know this really well as well. But President Trump is stuck to the President Eisenhower, who was also a rare 5-star general. President Eisenhower established the continuity government, but he also accompanied that with presidential emergency action documents to show that we're in a true military occupation. President Trump said on the 100 days of this first 100 days, he said, I've signed over 350 executive actions, not orders, but actions. Well, if you go to the Federal Register at that 100-day mark, there's only 150 on there. Where the other 200? Presidential emergency action documents, which are only classified between him and whom? Department of Justice. Ironically, not the DOW now, which was the old DOD, all right, but the Department of Justice. All right, those are secretive, all right, which means that, hey, they're heavily, and as Colonel Sellers said before he dropped off, that, hey, military JAG is always right there, always, all right, and President Trump's cleaned out the military. All right, so when you know those things, those presidential emergency action documents, President Trump, part of that continuity government from Eisenhower back there was to have businessmen and military in key positions. And if you look at President Trump's nominations, 98, 99% of them are successful businessmen and women and or highly decorated veterans, and majority of them are from special operations that are being put in ambassador roles. Now, not all ambassadors are chief of missions, but all chief of missions are ambassadors. So that's who President Trump's been put in place. That is the visual sign of a military government being set up for what will take place whenever they remove all these people for the public out there. It's already being done, but for the public, as they see it and they think they're seeing it in real time, their hearts can be calm by knowing that's what that is. Everything is good. This has all been a plan for many, many years. All right, and the good guys are in control. The other thing that shows it as well is that it's slightly different. Military occupation don't always mean martial law, but a military occupation is most certainly invoked right now. And when President Trump said the other day about Venezuela, he said, I don't have to declare a war. Well, he's talking about because we are an occupied country. He said this in multiple speeches. We're an occupied country. We will soon no longer be an occupied country. But he didn't mean initially. But occupied country is not a federal government term. All right, that is a law of war manual term. It's not federal government anything. So it's law of war manual. And when he says that, he's telling you. Then you got to go look at Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550. That Section 1550 was put into place way back in 2019. All right, so that's how long this has been going. Every order that's a military order, Title 10, Title 32, majority of them are under that Title 50. All right, and it's important for people to know Title 50 is war and national defense. That was established with the National Security Act of 1947. So if it was against the law, then it should have never been left in the law if they didn't want it to be enforced. So see, that's how you solve all the against the laws and unlawful stuff is, why is it in the law then? Now, Abraham Lincoln specifically said that, well, if there's a law that's bad, but it's still on the law books, then you still need to enforce it where the people can do what? Raise their voices and express their disinterest in this and say, we don't like that, their dissent, and then remove it. But everything that President Trump has done, the face-off, it's really generals and admirals back here, and it's multiple teams of military and federal attorneys who are doing this and the clean out. So you can see that, yes, soon. I mean, it's amping up to that. His post, Obama, has been really, for the people, we know that that's not really him, but for the people who don't know that yet, he's been amping up all of his tweets. He didn't tweet a whole lot during 2021 to 2025. And so Hillary, I think, was on TV yesterday saying she'd love to wake up to see President Trump gone. So they're amping all this up, right? They're getting them talking again, the key players, and then when the liberals and all bait, they fall for the bait, it's going to look like President Trump's losing, and then that's when you hit it. But it can't look like President Trump did it. So, see, it has to be a setup to where it's not a dictator look. So the judicial system has to do it, right? And the right judicial system, and that'll be the military, because there's no other way but the military.
Great stuff, Derek. Before we go to Brad and close out our show in a few moments, I want to bring us back to something you mentioned. I'm paraphrasing you. You said, well, the public, the general public, meaning not military or intelligence people, doesn't really understand certain things or not privy to certain things. And this is why I urge our audience to follow everyone you see on the screen, their own respective platforms, to get the information from military and intelligence experts who do know what's going on. That's why you should follow these gentlemen in their own platforms, and also continue to follow this Global Defense War panel each and every month. I'll also direct you to BOSI Briefs. Ricardo and I record a show. I'm adding a subtitle to the show, Ricardo, because it's really grown into something that's very clear to me, thanks to your incredible analysis. The subtitle to BOSI Briefs, beginning next episode, is going to be dismantling the deception, because that's what we're doing. That's what you're doing. That's what this panel is doing. And so anyway, follow these gentlemen on their own respective platforms. Follow Global Defense War each and every month. BOSI Briefs every other Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Eyes on Gitmo with Wano Savin, Blaine Holt, Matt Meck, and others. Follow, get selective. Whittle down the podcaster noise to the best. You only want the best. You want lean and mean military and intelligence analysis and reporting. Your survival is going to depend upon it for where we are and where we are heading. And this panel has done an incredible job, and I salute you, gentlemen. I want to wrap this program up very briefly. Is there anything we'll start with? Oh, sorry, Brad. I missed you there. With all due respect. Please, I had a loaded question. I'm happy to revisit the points on it. Please weigh in on all those issues.
No worries. Once Derek talks about wearing Ranger panties again, lots of stuff goes out the window. And hopefully you're not wearing them on our show tomorrow, buddy. Yeah. Maybe you won't get a listen.
Never know.
I've seen the cold drink water. We know, but at least the women are throwing their panties at you when you got them on, and you're up on stage.
Never know.
So, yeah, they love it.
I might surprise you.
Remember, it's UDT shorts with Michael. You can't diss a SEAL, my friend. Especially Dev Group, Tier 1. Yeah. UDT shorts, Ranger panties. Totally different, but as they say in Thailand, same, but different. John, I'll be very brief. I think, a lot of his stuff has been said here, but just I want to encourage everybody who is a self-professed Q-tard, or at least that's what they used to call us in the comments every now and then, Q-tard, and then President Trump comes out with Spiritual Street Fighter 17, and just bam, bam, one after another. There's a quadrant, a full block of 4 right? Nothing can stop what's coming. Where we go, one we go all. He puts that out there. Remember your oath. And what else did we see? Q plus, do it now. So there you've just authenticated the Q and the anon movement and the comms, as well as the Q alert. So right there's nice kind of retribution and vindication, especially for DJ over here and Michael and Ricardo. And what we also see too, I think this is a very important note and prominence, is when President Trump was saying giving the power back to the people. You see everything from Insurrection Act of 1807. The Alien and Seditions Act is like 1798. Military tribunals going right back to the establishment of the U.S. Marine Corps and then the Army. So everything bringing all of us, and I say us because Rick's in Australia, and then he's going to be making Australia great again. He's already doing that, and he's going to step in the commander-in-chief role 100%, which to me, he's already there. It just needs to be authenticated by President DJT and the people of Australia. So make sure you stand behind that man when it happens, because it is going to happen. But also for people to get up to speed on Brazil that you mentioned was amazing, because the climate change conference was there 3 weeks ago, and the Brazilians stormed the conference and shut it down. So think the World Economic Forum in Davos happened in Brazil. So the people are like, if you're not giving us the power back, we are going to take it back. And I love what you said, John. Gitmo is calling, because I had this image in my mind of like Ward Cleaver's wife, picking up the phone. He's like, who is it? She's like, Gitmo is calling, but it happens to be substitute anybody you want for that, right? Huma Abedin with Killary and the Frazzle Drip stuff coming out, and everything else from that point in time. So this is wonderful. And then to summarize, where you're asking us about the arrests and stuff, President Trump just posted twice, stock up. And every comm he has put out thus far has happened or is about to happen. So when he says stock up, maybe you just need to have and be prepared with a couple weeks worth of water and everything and some hard currency just in case. Right? Everybody should have been doing that anyway at this point in time. And the other point as well, for the Canadians who are watching, you see President Trump has posted at least 5 times since leading up to 47 while he was coming in. And then after that, about all-encompassing Greenland all the way down to Mexico. So from Central America, what we now know it, all the way up to Greenland and Alaska is all part of the United States. These are his posts. So when we talk about it's going to happen, I think it is about to happen. Like, you cannot dismiss what he is putting out, and it is rolling out fast, hard, and heavy.
Without question. Thank you, Brad. We're concluding our show. Brad, what's the best way for people to follow you, the work that you put out? Please make that widely known.
Thanks, John. The Sovereign Soul on Rumble. That's the channel. And just got it back to YouTube as well. Thanks to some good patriots, one of them sitting here with Michael. We're all back on YouTube now for a while. I guess we can say COVID. We can't say Nazi. I just found that one out today. So on YouTube. Yeah, exactly. Right here. Derek likes that. He likes that. Yeah. He's sitting in his basement. Mom's upstairs. I'm just kidding. Maybe not. All right. And it's an honor. It's an honor for all these men to be here. I hope everybody follows them because, Derek and I are on the scene before these men, who have served for decades ahead of us. So I would encourage everybody at the bare minimum following you, John, or following Michael and Rick.
Thank you, Brad. We go around in reverse here. Derek, best way for people to follow you and not the imposters.
I know Brad didn't hear my joke just then, but that you gotta, Mom, the meatloaf, I want it now. Right? So anyway.
You gotta stamp the feed when you do that. Yeah.
So
funeral.
There are so many imposters out there, man. It's wild. I don't know if anybody else is experiencing it, but man, it's like you put one out, then 10 more pop up.
I'm getting it. They're doing the same to me. let me throw this
Yeah.
out there. Sorry to interrupt. I never do, as you know.
No.
Folks, I am not pushing QFS, this, that, or the other thing. I've got a dedicated person on my team now, looking on mainly my Rumble channel and other places. And I got a disclaimer in there. I am not, people hijack my name with underscores and a twisted version of it. I'm none of those things. Be very clear about that. Don't answer those people. Don't go to their emails. I'm not that person. Very, very clear. Sorry to interrupt you, Derek, but you've got more imposters than you can shake a stick at. So tell people how to find you.
That's the same thing. Like we will not contact you like that. I mean, I do love answering mails to my legit, but we will not tell you financial anything, or I won't. I don't tell you anything, especially like that. But my best thing is my link tree, which has all my official links up. And if it's not on that link tree, it is not mine. So linktr.ee/1776 Nation. If there's not a link up there, steer clear of it. Find that link tree. Find my official like blue badge, like Facebook, and then my blue badge on X, or the red badge on True Social, and also Instagram to verify. Because I get so many messages where they'll say, "Is this yours?" And I'm like, "No, here's my link tree." So there's a lot of people that's falling for it. There's not anything we can do, but I will never ask you for money, ever. I don't have subscriptions for a reason. I'm strictly a veteran, just keeping my oath, but no money. I know people who have lost $25,000 up to $100,000 off of scams, and there's nothing we can do about it except to warn you. And because most of those are burners, they're going to get your money and kill the account, and you're not going to get it back. So please listen when we say, here's the way you contact me. It's on a link tree and all those official pages.
Great advice. Michael, since we're winding down, I'll share this with you. There's some loser who's pretending to be you, who comes, it seemed to have tapered off, comes to my platform, particularly on my Global Financial Reset show, which I do every Wednesday live at 8:30 Eastern. And they were commenting, as Mike Jaco, do this, do that, come here, do this, do that. And I'd go on there, it gets exhausting. Who's got time for this, right? I go on there. This is not Michael Jaco. I know Michael Jaco. Get rid of this guy. But thank goodness that loser seems to have vanished, at least for now. But Michael, best way for people to follow the real Michael Jaco.
MichaelKJaco.com and Michael Jaco on YouTube.
Thank you, Michael. And the same closing question to retired Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bossi. Best place for people to find you. You have an extensive amount of information out there. How can people connect directly up with you and your team?
AustraliaOneParty.com, as it's written above there, AustraliaOneParty.com. That's the website. Lots of information there, what we do, how we do it. For those that feel so motivated to do something in your own nation, you can steal as much as you like, adapt it, use it, make it your own. Just start taking charge of your life. The best place for information apart from there is Rumble channel, and it's Australia One Party, but Australia One in one word. And there's about 35,000 plus followers on that one. Like the others on the screen, there are a lot of copycats, but go to the original. That's the 35,000 plus followers on that, on Rumble. Great videos there. Lots. I think it must be pushing up to nearly 600 now, certainly well over 500 videos on a range of subjects. And just unfortunately, we've got to say the same as Derek and everybody else. We never ask for money. We don't solicit money. We don't have investment plans. Just ignore all of that. It's got nothing to do with us. The only financial comments we ever make is what we as a family do, which is we just buy silver. That's it. Best return on investment from our perspective, and that's it. You like something else, go for it. We don't give it financial advice, and we certainly never solicit funds. So there you go. Thank you.
Well, thank you all very much. And I want to close this out with the statement that Brad Wozni brought up earlier concerning MAGFO, I'll call it, Make Australia Great for Once. And let's all feed to that vision and the outcome of retired Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bossi taking that over from the highest level and position in the country of Australia. Let's make that happen. I'm sure our president and those with muscle would be fully behind this. Let's see. I can't see it because of there you go. All right, folks. Thank you all very much.